Abraham Lincoln, a name we know well, but behind it is a story of leadership, struggle, and perseverance. A story that helped shape the United States into the nation it is today. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at how one man, with his heart full of conviction, stood tall during the darkest chapter in American history, the Civil War, and preserved the Union. Born on February 12, 1809, in a humble log cabin in Kentucky, Abraham Lincoln came from very modest beginnings. He had little formal education, but what he did have was a fierce drive to learn. His early life wasn't easy, but he was determined to make something of himself. Fast forward to 1860, and Lincoln, now a successful lawyer and politician, found himself running for President of the United States. The nation was already divided over one of its greatest moral dilemmas: slavery. In the southern states, slavery was an entrenched part of life, while many in the North believed it should be abolished. Tensions had been simmering for years, and when Lincoln was elected, the country was on the brink of a crisis. Almost immediately after Lincoln's election, southern states began to secede from the Union. They were terrified that Lincoln's anti-slavery stance would threaten their way of life. The Confederacy was born, and the nation was torn apart. In 1861, Lincoln faced an unimaginable choice: let the Union break apart, or do everything he could to preserve it. Lincoln chose the latter. He knew that keeping the country together wasn't just about politics, it was about the soul of the nation. But preserving the Union would come at a terrible cost. The Civil War had begun. The next few years would see some of the bloodiest battles in American history. The war was brutal, and it often seemed like the South was gaining the upper hand. Lincoln, despite the growing death toll, held firm. He refused to compromise on his belief that the Union must be preserved no matter the cost. But Lincoln also knew that something had to be done about slavery. It was a moral stain on the nation. So in 1862, he made a pivotal decision. He issued the Emancipation Proclamation, a bold move that declared all slaves in Confederate states to be free. It was a monumental shift, not just for the war, but for the future of the United States. As the war raged on, Lincoln found himself facing incredible challenges, not just on the battlefield, but back home too. Many people were frustrated with the slow progress of the war and wanted peace at any cost. But Lincoln's vision remained clear: the Union must be preserved. In November 1863, Lincoln delivered one of the most famous speeches in American history, the Gettysburg Address. Standing on the battlefield where thousands had died, he reminded the nation of its founding principles: liberty, equality, and the pursuit of happiness. He spoke of a government of the people, by the people, for the people, and he urged the nation to stay united in their fight for freedom. By 1865, the tide of the war had turned. The Confederacy was on the brink of collapse, and the Union was on the verge of victory. But just as the war was coming to an end, tragedy struck. On April 14, 1865, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth, a man who opposed his policies. Lincoln died just days after the Confederacy surrendered, and his vision of a reunited nation was left in the hands of others. Though Lincoln's life was cut tragically short, his legacy endures. He saved the Union, ended slavery, and helped set the country on a path toward a more just and equal future. His leadership, wisdom, and unwavering belief in the principles of democracy changed the course of history. Today, Lincoln is remembered not just as a great leader, but as a man who understood that sometimes the right thing to do isn't easy. He faced impossible choices, but his dedication to the Union and to freedom guided him through even the darkest moments. Abraham Lincoln once said, "The better angels of our nature." His story is a reminder that in times of division, we must always strive for unity, justice, and the enduring ideals that bind us together. And that, in essence, is why Lincoln's story is still so relevant today. It teaches us that, even in the face of great adversity, hope, perseverance, and leadership can shape the course of history. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.